I'm Christy with Go DIY. Today we're going to cover something super common. If you live in a house, an apartment, it doesn't really matter. You have some piece of furniture that probably has a scratch, dent, ding, or in my case, I decided to drill holes into a tabletop to make it into a plaything for the cats. And now I've changed my mind, I want another tabletop. So I am going to show you a couple of quick tips on how to actually fill in, correct some scuffs, some scratches, and then also how to repair holes that you have drilled straight through the tabletop or whatever piece of furniture you have. So first, I think the most common thing are scratches. And those happen especially on chair legs, tabletops, from a vacuum cleaner, things getting put on a tabletop and pushed, or whatever it is, wherever it is on your furniture. So I'm gonna show you some things that will help you when repairing those so you don't see that you actually made a repair. So for this particular scratch, I have just a minor scratch here, and we have this Varathane marker kit. It's got all kinds of colors, so you just match up the best you can, and sometimes you may need to like mix some of the colors. So the key here, so that you don't look like, so it doesn't look like you have a marker mark right on the tabletop, is that as you make the marks, go with the grain. And I find no matter which way the scratch is going, you want to color it in the direction of the grain. As soon as you get a mark in there, just do a little bit at a time, rub it away. You're not actually gonna rub the color away inside the scratch. You're actually, whatever excess there is, you're just wiping that away. When you don't do that, that's when you see that mark and it looks like you made a repair. Now sometimes, depending on the type of repair markers, stain markers that you get, the color may change or fade, maybe it'll brighten as it dries. So it's just kind of a trial and error type of thing. But the key is to constantly have just an old rag and constantly wipe away any of the excess. So we'll see how that one dries up. We'll come back to it. Maybe we need to go over it with another color to make sure we have a perfect match. When I mention markers, I'm talking about wood stain markers, very specific to actually correcting scratches, dent in wood. I have the Varathane, they have a multi-pack here. It even includes black. We have a lot of black furniture, and these are amazing. They actually stick to the wood grain. Another one of my favorites is DAP. When I have maybe a deeper dent or scratch, they actually have these little wax pieces, and I will use these to fill in. The thing is I'm not using just regular crayons or Crayola markers or something like that. These are specific to wood. So I got really creative, or so I thought, and I drilled some holes in this tabletop. So I'm going to show you how to fill these holes. And the first thing I need to do is make sure that I plug the hole on the opposite side where I have actually drilled all the way through. So I started to do this. I just take a little bit of masking tape, plug that hole up. That way, when I put wood filler in there, it stops somewhere. And it's not gonna go anywhere once it's dried. So, I have wood filler here, and you'll find a link to this in the description below. And this is awesome wood filler because it is paintable and stainable. And I literally am just going to fill each one of these holes and make sure that I get this in there really good. All the way up. It does help to have something to make sure you're pushing it all the way through, especially on these smaller ones. If I don't do this, then that wood filler eventually might sag. I have tried putting this wood filler in a smaller tube, but since it's wood filler and it actually has pieces of small like sawdust in it, the tiny, tiny tube gets filled pretty quick and dries, and then it's worthless. So this tends to work best for me. And then I do all of these holes and make sure that everything is filled. It's even at the top. I'm gonna let it dry, and then I'm going to sand it, and we're going to stain it. And you're not even gonna know that those holes were there. Okay, so we've let the wood filler dry for about 30-45 minutes. You may even wanna let it dry longer than that. You don't wanna go any less than 30 minutes because you want to be able to sand it. You want it to be dry and smooth and not gum up on you. So to start with the sanding, I am gonna start with the 60 grit, then I'm gonna move to 100, 150, and then the 220. Because I'm using a stain, I want it to have a really nice smooth finish to it when I'm ready to apply that stain. So I'm gonna just fold it in thirds, and I'm gonna go with the grain. I'm gonna go with the line of the natural wood, and that way I don't have any crisscross marks happening or anything like that. Now it's time for the 100 grit. And you can find links to all of this sandpaper, everything that I'm using today in the description below. I've got links to everything, so it'll be really easy to get this stuff for yourself. And I'm using really light pressure, even on the 60 grit. 60 grit was just meant to knock off the excess wood filler, the dried wood filler. And now I'm just using really light pressure to get that next smoother surface. Between each different number of grit, I'm knocking off all of the dust that I can. Otherwise, the next finer grit is just gonna pick up the dust or any grit that came off the previous sandpaper, and you're just gonna scratch up the wood. So I always knock off that excess dust. Now I'm gonna move on to the 150. .220 final grit. This is the smoothest one that I'm gonna use before staining. And my goal is to not feel the wood filler, to feel any impression from where the previous mark was, dent, scratch, whatever it was. Okay, next thing I want to introduce you to is tack cloth. This stuff is unbelievable. It is sticky. It is sometimes annoyingly sticky, like that sticky you can't get off your fingers. Usually I will try to use some kind of gloves or something. But what I want to share with you is that this stuff will pick up the finest dust, dirt, whatever, so that there is nothing left over. It is amazing. And the great thing is, you see I have this in a little sandwich bag. This one I have used over and over and over and over again. You get your money out of this tack cloth. And again, I'm gonna have a link to this in the description below. This is a must-have in your workshop. by any means. If you are painting or sanding anything, you must have this tack cloth. So I can actually use this one that I've used probably for, oh, I don't know, 6-7 months on countless projects, and it leaves nothing. It's amazing. So now all I have to do is stain. If you have a really big spot, you could do, once you do your stain, you could actually do some faux lines to kind of drag the grain here if you wanted to, and just use a darker stain, or maybe some washed out black paint or darker brown paint. You just add a tiny bit of water to it, wait for your stain to dry completely, and then do those black marks and then seal it after that. So we're gonna go ahead and do the stain now. So when it comes to the wood stain, matching up the color is probably the toughest part. I can't tell you the name of every color of wood in our collection of furniture at our home. Sometimes I'll take a picture. That's not always truly accurate when you're trying, but you'll see at the hardware store that you go to, you'll see all kinds of different little swatches, little patches of wood that they have. I have been known to take things as big as this tabletop with me to the hardware store to match them up. So I would just say do the best that you can with that. I will have, this is an everyday color, red oak by Minwax. I'll have a link to this, but if you have any projects coming up, you're gonna make your own table or fix something up, refinish this. Red oak, you cannot lose with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and I am starting very, very, very light. I don't wanna clump this on. And me personally, just like I did with the scratch when I repaired that, oh, I gotta go with the grain on this because I want the stain really to get in there and to give that illusion that there has never been anything wrong with this. But what I was saying is, like with the scratch, I want to wipe off the excess so that I'm not leaving any kind of gummy stain mess afterwards. And it looks like this is going to take a couple of coats so that I get a really good match on it. But you get the idea here. And I love how this wood filler picks up the stain so well. And that's because it's actually made with wood. So there you go. I'll probably apply another coat to this, but I've shown you how to do it. I hope now that you will go try this, go DIY, go do it yourself. And as I mentioned, all the links to everything I used today are in the description below. And I can't wait to hear how your DIY projects go do it yourself.